Miles Teller does an interview with Esquire magazine, and it backfires in the eyes of many. He had a lot to say. Miles Teller, if you don't know him, he's the co-star, the lead in Whiplash, which is a very critically acclaimed movie. And J.K. Simmons, his other co-star, won the Academy Award. So it did very well. And he did this interview with Esquire magazine, and he said a few things that brought attention to some people. It says, "You've just told him, Miles Teller, by way of making conversation, that according to the legend of champagne coupe in your hand is shaped like Marie Antoinette's left breast. And he tells you the highball glass is modeled after his penis. Then he tells the waitress the same thing." And then his girlfriend has a tattoo on her butt of his initials. We'll get into all these quotes, but first thoughts, 5 words or less.
Douchebaggery goes the extra miles.
Nice.
Who is Miles Teller?
Throw Teller in the pen. Because it's Penn and Teller.
Ooh, I like it.
I honestly, so reading these things, when you first saw them, what'd you think?
Okay, so I read a summary of the interview before, and then I read the entire piece in Esquire, and I had to read it twice because it just sounded like a bunch of ranting from an angry writer who's trying to make a point about something, but you don't really understand what her point is.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Miles didn't say anything that I thought was particularly douchey. In fact, there was one portion in the interview where he talks about a really terrible car accident he was in. His friend was driving. He got these scars on his face as a result of that. And for some reason, the writer felt the need to make fun of him and his scars as a result of that. It was kind of sick.
I had the similar experience where when I read the headline, I then went through and was like, oh, all the things in here must be about how Miles Teller's terrible. But then going through, it just reveals that I am completely under the influence of whatever headline I read to color my experience of what I'm about to read.
Right.
What'd you think?
Okay, so here's what I thought. The writer seems like that journalist snob. And no offense, Anna, I know you had an op-ed in the New York Times recently.
That doesn't mean I'm a journalist snob.
It's changed.
Yeah, it seems like that journalist snob who's like, oh my God, articles nowadays on BuzzFeed only have GIFs. I'm doing true journalism. Because at one point, he wanted to put this literary, he wanted to make this a literal masterpiece in some ways because it's a f***ing interview on Esquire magazine, and he has this point where he's like, oh, I saw his scar throb pink in the dark, in between, and it's why would you say that it's like a Esquire piece on Miles Teller, why'd you have to
It's that thing. There's certain magazines, where if you're a journalist or a writer for that magazine, a lot of people feel the need to add a certain stylistic flair. And a lot of these interviews all start the same way with a paragraph is we sat down, the door clanked shut, I could hear the cash register go as he fumbled for change in his pocket. Like they're writing their novel page by page.
Yeah,
through
it's not a
introductory
novel.
paragraphs in Esquire. But here's some other things that he wrote that was in the article. Here's one thing that I think can be, construed as kind of dickish. He had written a text to Kobe Bryant. And he said, Kobe, I watch a Showtime documentary, really related to what you were talking about and striving for greatness and how it can oftentimes be an isolated journey and how relationships can be a weakness in a way if you're really kind of going after it. First of all, how are you really kind of going after it? You're either really going after it or you're not. But he identifies with Kobe, who is understood to be one of the most, kind of standoffish, dickish. His teammates, he's there just to win and not to be friends with anybody.
Yeah, a lot of people dislike Kobe Bryant for that reason. I don't dislike him for that reason. He has his goals. He went for it. He's very focused. And the reality is what Miles wrote to him, or what he allegedly wrote to him, wasn't offensive or dickish at all, right? He related to him, and it's fine. I feel like I learned more about the biases of the writer than I did about Miles in this article.
I read this article and the headline, and I just thought to myself, yeah, sure, I'm fine with thinking of Miles Teller as an asshole. And that's wrong.
That is wrong. The only person worth disliking is the person who wrote this article.
Have you guys ever been taken out of context real quick?
Of course.
And how do you respond to it when it happens?
I gotta be honest, for the most part, I just ignore it because I just don't have time to chase after people who quote me out of context. I mean, no one big has quoted me out of context. It's usually like bloggers or people on Tumblr or something like that. But I think if it was someone big, I would probably respond with the full context of what I said and just kind of try to set the record straight.
Haas?
Yes, I get taken out of context all the time. And I take it very personally, YouTube commenters. Whenever you say something mean to me, I get really upset.
You should see him cry. It's literally we put a little kiddie pool around his desk because it's just filled with tears by the end of the day.
It's difficult.
Rolling Stone did an article about current TV, and they said that I called Hillary Clinton Hill Boater, which doesn't make sense. I called her Hill Boner. Like a boner.
That makes it
Wow.
better.
I don't know why.
It's a gross that's a gross injustice.
Anyways, what do you think of this Miles Teller interview? And have you ever been taken out of context, and how did you respond? Don't forget to subscribe, give us your thoughts, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.